So, you want to know what happened before old 9, huh? Thankfully, I've got everything you need to know. Strap in, because there's a lot of random nonsense involved that I'll have to explain. But it'll all be worth it. Episode 1 starts off with a train crashing into a volcano on Ahi Island, which is where old takes place. This tropical setting features volcanoes, beaches, and even some small settlements. The host fire extinguisher starts to introduce the cast and reveals the grand prize of the season, a mansion. The first challenge is to race around the entire island, and the last 5 to finish will be up for voting and will be placed onto the danger team, while the rest will be on the safe team. You see, in this initial era of the show, there were no permanent teams. They switched every episode depending on who did the worst in the challenge. However, the contestant that gets voted out will be locked down onto the danger team, meaning they could help the danger team escape another elimination. Really, this was just a convoluted way for me to let eliminated contestants stick around for more of the show. Anyway, back to the challenge. Umbrella scares off Acorn pretty much immediately, and he runs all the way to the finish line, being the first one safe. After this, Bucket meets Eminem, the world-famous rapper, and they quickly become friends. Fire Extinguisher explains to Sun and Moon, who are fighting, that flying is not permitted in any challenges, as it would be an unfair advantage, but Moon decides to fly to the end anyway, becoming the first one up for elimination.
Okay, you're definitely up for voting.
Fire Extinguisher is usually a nice host, but can get set off easily by annoying people, and Cone is certainly an annoying character, causing Fire Extinguisher to launch her to an unknown location on the island. After this, Grassy and Paintpal decide to work together, forming a friendship that will eventually blossom into a strong alliance. They hop into a van and start zooming towards the finish. A few other moments from this episode include Stop Sign trying to arrest Pumpkin and Cherry for digging a hole, Yarn making fun of Drago for not being an object and realizing immediately that she should not have said that, and Banana jumping onto the taxi, indirectly causing it to crash into a mountain, which seamlessly transitions into... The 3 contestants that crash are still alive and start heading towards the finish once again. After this, Eminem shows off a song to Bucket, which is really bad.
Weirdos think they're cool, but I'm better than them. The others think they're winning the game.
Then this happens.
Don't question it. It's just how I roll.
I don't know why that happened, but whatever. Yarn gets arms in this episode because the animator who did this scene gave her arms, and I didn't have Adobe Animate to remove the arms, so she just keeps them throughout the rest of the season. After this scene, the time skips to show the final 5 contestants who have not reached the finish. The 3 that don't make it will be up for elimination, with Moon, who is disqualified, and Cone, who could not complete the challenge. Bottle gets mad at Milky, who she was running with the whole challenge, and kicks her all the way to the finish. Meanwhile, Stop Sign uses his police hovercraft to zoom quickly towards the finish, leaving Moon, Cone, Sun, Bottle, and Balloon up for elimination. Episode 3 is the first one to be animated entirely in Adobe Animate. It begins with Yarn reading a note from Drago where he reveals he's quitting the show, indirectly due to Yarn's rude behavior. Due to this quit, Fire Extinguisher tries to search for a new Drago, which ends up being Notebook, an old character of mine that debuts into the series, replacing Drago's spot in the cast. A fun fact, Notebook uses she/her pronouns in this episode, while in future episodes he switches to he/him, making him the only canonical trans contestant in Old, but obviously any headcanons are perfectly okay. The elimination begins with Locke being formally revealed, Fire Extinguisher's co-host that usually only hosts elimination ceremonies, but does pop up elsewhere. Sun won the prize, which is...
Why would I need this?
The bottom 2 are Moon and Bottle, where Moon ended up getting locked down by a landslide. He competes with the Danger Team for the next 2 episodes. The challenge in this episode is to sell ice cream at a boardwalk, where one of the patrons is secretly a critic that will judge their offerings, and whichever team has the worst ice cream will be up for elimination. The teams finish making their ice cream pretty quickly, but before they can start serving it, Grassy and Eminem randomly get into a fight about who's more swag.
Let's do it, Chocolate Skittle. Actually, M&M's came before.
After this, there's quite a few scenes with different patrons trying the ice cream from both teams, which were filled by my friends' OCs, including a very old version of what would end up becoming Sketchpad from the Nightly Manor. Eventually, the food critic reveals himself, watching over the safe team's complete mistreatment of a patron. Since the Danger Team won, they got to choose who would be up for elimination and make up the new Danger Team. Sorry, this format was very confusing, but it ended up being these 6 that were up for elimination. Episode 4 begins with a show hosted by Circle named Will Milky Ever Get a Personality, which references an old gag in one of my older shows, Will Bushy Ever Get Screen Time. Circle gets roasted by Milky pretty easily, runs off stage, and the elimination begins. Sun wins the prize yet again, 2nd time in a row, and is saved with the least amount of dislikes. Limey gets locked down due to him being rude while serving ice cream. Fire Extinguisher explains the 3rd contest, singing or dancing in front of a panel of 3 judges. The contestants were split into 5 groups of 5, making it anyone's game. Dollar and Umbrella's team were the most dysfunctional, opting to perform a jazz country-style song. Eminem is paired up with Grassy and Paintpal, which sparks an alliance that spans this entire section of the series. Bucket shows off his impressive saxophone skills for his team. Notebook's team opts for a dubstep performance, while Diamond and Bottle plan to escape the stage. Eventually, all 5 teams perform. Let me show you a snippet of all 5 performances.
Yeah, Yeehaw! What's up, my dude?
Retreat!
And what's a little spaghetti without sauce?
The 3 bottom placing teams got put up for elimination, where the contestants decide who gets out in episode 5. Old 5 was a very important shift in the series as I completely revamped the art style. This change was never given an explanation within the series. This episode formally eliminates Moon and Limey along with 2 other contestants. Balloon was one of them, getting voted out by the contestants. After this ceremony, Fire Extinguisher leads the contestants into the forest, where the next challenge was intended to take place. However, Fire Extinguisher quickly gets abducted.
Why am I flying?
This abduction shifts hosting power to Locke. The challenge was to not die in a scary forest, and the first one who dies would be eliminated, that being Skateboard. The most important event in this episode is the formal introduction of Grassy and Paint Palette's alliance. Bottle joins the alliance, making it a solid group of 4. This alliance takes up a lot of the screen time in episodes 5 through 8. There's some crazy creatures that appear in the forest, including a bear that kills Pumpkin, an alien that shoots arrows at contestants, and Edgy Diamond, who is just an inside joke between friends. Not a very relevant character at all to the rest of the series. What is relevant, though, is Yarn and Hot Sauce, who spark a friendship in this episode, trying to survive in the forest together. They end up finding Notebook's corpse, who was killed by an alien while watching a parody of the Danganronpa anime. Before the end of the episode, Paint Palette also gets stabbed by Edgy Diamond, and Yarn and Hot Sauce get into a confrontation with Umbrella. These 8 survived, and the 16 who died were placed up for elimination. However, no one was recovered, and it was unknown if recovery was possible, until Fire Extinguisher conveniently gets dropped back onto Ahi Island by the UFO and is updated on the contestants' deaths, revealing he has no idea how to revive people, which shocks the 8 survivors. Fire Extinguisher turns this issue into the 5th challenge, where the contestants are tasked to find a way to recover the rest. The challenge starts, and they decide to split up into 2 groups to search the island quicker. Stop Sign, Barry, Yarn, and Hot Sauce go to a village and decide to knock on people's doors to see if they know how to recover people, with no luck. The other group goes back to Coney Island, the same location during the challenge of Old 3. Eventually, that second group finds a scroll from a witch hat in a magic store that says Revive a Nawa contestant Kapawa. Seemed like a joke to them, but it actually worked, reviving all 16 contestants who died. Paint Palette won the prize, being a drill that comes in handy during Old 7's challenge. Spoilers. The bottom 2 for this elimination were extremely close, with only a 3-vote difference. Cone got locked down over Snowboard. However, the dead contestants were immediately put back up for elimination again because the safe team revived them all, putting Snowboard back in immediate danger. This episode starts with Circle trying to become a better person after his shows with Milky in the past, which essentially resolves itself in this episode. Circle becomes much more likable in Old 7 and 8. Diamond also gets the idea to start a band with Bucket, which becomes more relevant in future episodes, specifically after the revival of the show. In the elimination ceremony, Grassy wins the prize, which is a drill again. Snowboard predictably gets locked down here in a vote that's not close at all. The 6th challenge is to build a house in 2 hours. Fire Extinguisher splits the current Danger team into 2, the Dangered Girls and Danger Boys, so it's an even split between the 3 teams in the challenge. They had to swim over to an adjacent island to retrieve building materials, and chaos ensues in the water as Stop Sign starts getting very mad at Yarn's non-existent swimming skills.
I'm not a good swimmer. I'm soaking up the water and it's weighing me down!
Come on! Oh!
Stop Sign orders the safe team to follow his instructions and continues to insult Yarn throughout the challenge, while Bucket and Hot Sauce defend her. Once all the teams return to their designated building zones, the Danger Boys start building a wooden house, while the safe team chooses to go with Eminem's idea to build a sandcastle. Banana on the Danger Boys drops a splotch of paint onto the wall, annoying his team members. And Stop Sign goes on another rant towards Yarn, causing him to storm off and step on their team's sandcastle, leaving them with no house or any sort of building or sandcastle at the end of the timer. Exit Sign appears to help Fire Extinguisher judge the challenge. The Danger Boys get a 16 out of 20, the Danger Girls get a perfect 20 out of 20, and the safe team got a 0 because they didn't have anything to show due to Stop Sign, putting them up for elimination. In my opinion, this episode is easily the best of the pre-2024 revival episodes and is perfectly watchable as is, but the voice cast and other elements are completely different from the revivals. Regardless, I'll still give you a quick rundown on what happens in Old 8. The episode starts with the Alliance trying to decide on who will be their designated team leader, which ends up being Bottle. Eminem gets pulled aside for band practice with Diamond, and Grassy gets nervous, thinking Eminem will eventually side against them in the future. In the elimination ceremony, Yarn wins the prize, being Mittens, and both Umbrella and Stop Sign get the boot, probably because they were both perceived as meaner characters than the rest. After the ceremony, Pumpkin shows everyone his Hatsune Miku cosplay, and they all board a dodgy plane to the mainland towards Mount Frappamanchino. The 7th challenge is to ski down the mountain with another contestant as a pair, collecting as many flags as possible. Pain Palette and Bin are the first pair to set off, and Pain Palette uses this challenge as an opportunity to cheer Bin up, who's known to be a very negative, pessimistic contestant. Eminem and Bucket discuss their band, whereas Circle and Banana get a lot closer in the episode, becoming friends. Grazzy tries to prove to Bottle that he's a more deserving leader than her, using some questionable tactics to show his worth. Yarn and Hot Sauce go through their own journey during this challenge as well, as Hot Sauce helps beat her fear of skiing. Sun stretches out to reach a flag, causing them to fly off and cause a collision with Milky and Teapot, rolling to form a giant snowball which catches many of the teams. Circle ends up losing his precious top hat due to Banana's incompetence, which makes him very sad as they're the last to reach the bottom of the mountain. These 5 pairs end up losing, putting them up for elimination, where Dollar and George say they want to take a nap. Oh, and Yarn made this, which is kind of important. Thank you all for watching this recap. Make sure to watch Old 9, Old 10, and the rest of the Revival episodes, as I think they're way better than these. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you learn more about this show and the contestants. And yeah, thanks for watching.